Hi everybody. Today we're going to talk about changing customary units or different measurement conversions, and using a ratio and equivalent ratios can make this a lot easier. So let's just walk through a few examples. Okay, this is from our old textbook, but it all still applies. The table shows the approximate weights in tons of several large land animals. 1 ton is equivalent to 2,000 pounds. That's a standard measurement conversion that we should kind of know, is that 1 ton always equals 2,000 pounds. You can use a ratio table, which has columns filled with ratios that have the same value to convert each weight from tons to pounds. So complete this ratio table. The first two ratios are done for you. So you can see that 1 ton is 2,000 pounds. 4 tons is 8,000 pounds. Well, what about 5 and what about 8? In order to do that, we should make equivalent ratios and try to figure it out. So if I know that 1 ton equals 2,000 pounds, it's always important when we're doing measurement conversions to put the labels on so that you can keep things straight. Then you would write an equivalent ratio over here. We know 5 tons. That was already told to us in the table. This is what we don't know. We have a question mark here. We're not sure. So we can do equivalent ratios or even like percent proportion here to try to figure this out. We can do our cross products, or we can simply just do equivalent ratios. 1 times 5 equals 5, obviously. 2,000 times 5 is 10,000. So you know that, whoops, sorry about that. I made that kind of big. This should equal 10,000. What about 8? Let's go ahead and figure it out. If 1 ton equals 2,000 pounds, how much will 8 tons equal? All we have to do is multiply by 8. 2,000 times 8 is going to be 16,000. Okay, so this would be 16,000. Okay, that's as easy as this is. It's not hard at all. As long as you know your basic conversion, in this case, 1 ton to 2,000 pounds. Okay, the relationship among the most commonly used customary units of length, weight, and capacity are shown in the table below. This table, let me just kind of scroll here so you can see, this is really important. You probably want to copy and paste this or take a picture of it and store this in your GoodNotes so that you can remember it for problems, okay? You can see here that 1 foot is 12 inches, 1 yard is 3 feet, 1 mile is 5,280 feet, 1 pound is 16 ounces, 1 ton is 2,000 pounds, 1 cup is 8 ounces, 1 pint is 2 cups, 1 quart is 2 pints, and 1 gallon is 4 quarts. Those are all things that are important. During this unit, you can use this chart to help you with problems. Okay? Let's go ahead and go to page 2. Each of the relationships above can be written as a unit ratio. Like a unit rate, a unit ratio is one in which the denominator is 1 unit. So for example, we know that 3 feet is 1 yard, 2,000 pounds is 1 ton, 4 quarts is 1 gallon. Notice that the numerator and denominator of each fraction above are equivalent, so the value of each ratio is 1. You can multiply it by a unit ratio of this type to convert or change from larger units to smaller units. So let's kind of look and see how this would work. Convert 20 feet into inches. Since 1 foot equals 12 inches, the unit ratio is 12 inches to 1 foot. Okay? So we would multiply by 12 inches. So we would do this. Okay, 20 feet equals 20 feet times 12 inches over 1 foot. Okay, we can cross out our common units, okay, which are the feet right here. So you can kind of cross those out, okay, and then do 20 times 12, which equals 240 inches. Okay, so therefore 20 feet equals 240 inches. That's another way to do this, okay? Let's try another one. Okay, Clarence mixes 1/4 a cup of fertilizer with soil before planting each bulb. How many ounces of fertilizer does he use per bulb? Okay, so in this case, we need to know how many ounces there are in a cup. From our table, we know that 8 ounces are in 1 cup. So we would say 1/4 cup equals 1/4 cup times our unit ratio of 8 ounces in 1 cup, okay? We would divide out our common units, which is cups, okay? And then we have 1/4 times 8, which equals, if we multiply this out, multiplying fractions, which we all know, 1, 2, cross multiply, we get 2 ounces is 1/4 of a cup. Okay, pretty easy, right? Let's try another one here. Let's try this one. 36 yards equals how many feet? Okay, well, let's do that. 36 yards times, how many yards are there in a foot? Okay, or how many feet are there in 1 yard? There are 3 feet in 1 yard. That's our unit measurement or our unit conversion ratio. So we would cross out our yards because those are our common unit. And then we would multiply 36 times 3, okay, which equals 108 feet. 108 feet in 36 yards. That's pretty easy, right? That's when we convert larger units to smaller. So our answer should always be larger because there's more of them. Let's try an example down here. To convert from smaller units to larger units, multiply by the reciprocal of the appropriate unit ratio. Convert 15 quarts into gallons. Since 1 gallon equals 4 quarts, the unit ratio is 4 quarts to 1 gallon, and the reciprocal is 1 gallon to 4 quarts. Just like flipping fractions, it's the same thing. So you would multiply by 1 gallon over 4 quarts. So you would see that it would be like this. Let me write this out. So you would have 15 quarts, 15 quarts times 1 gallon to 4 quarts. Okay, so now we can cross out those common units again, right? Okay, and then we would multiply straight across and we would get 15 over 4, which then we would divide and we would get 3.75 gallons. So 15 quarts equals 3.75 gallons. Okay, all right. Let's go ahead and go to the next page. Okay, let's do a couple more here. Yumika needs 4.5 feet of fabric to make a costume for a play. How many yards of fabric does she need? Feet are smaller than yards, so we're converting from smaller to larger again. So let's write this out. 4.5 feet equals 4.5 feet times 1 yard to 3 feet. That's our unit ratio, the reciprocal of our unit ratio. 1 yard to 3 feet. We would cross out our common units, okay, and we end up with 4.5. Let's change that to an improper fraction. 9 halves times 1/3. Cross simplify here, and we end up with 3 halves, or 1.5 yards. Okay, that's another way to do it. Okay, I'm going to show you actually another way that I think is somewhat easier than doing this unit ratio multiplying is I like setting up proportions. And since you know proportions, I think it's easier. So the first thing you want to do is set up your proportion that you know to be true, like the feet to miles. We know that 1 mile equals 5,280 feet, okay? That's the conversion or the standard conversion that you would get from the chart that we have. Okay, so now that's our standard conversion. I'm going to label it. And then we have 2,640 feet. Always make your two units the same. So if you have feet on the bottom, they both have to be feet on the bottom. Miles on top, miles on top. We do not know this piece right here. We don't know how many miles there are in 2,640 feet, but what we can do is cross products are equal, like we learned with proportions. Okay, we know that 1 times 2,640 must equal 5,280 times question mark. Okay, so then all we have to do is divide to get the question mark by itself. So 2,640 divided by 5,280, okay, that will equal 1/2. So 2,640 is 1/2 of a mile. That's another way to do this. Okay, so you have choices here. So let's try this one, pints to quarts. I have to look back at my chart to see the conversion for pints to quarts because I always forget this. 1 quart is 2 pints. Okay, so let's write down 1 quart is the same as 2 pints. Let's set up our equivalent ratio. We know the pints, so 5 pints, and we don't know the quarts here. So what we can do is cross multiply. 1 times 5 equals 2 times question mark. Okay, 5 equals 2 question mark, and you know multiplication equations, the way you solve them is divide. So 5 divided by 2, which equals 2.5. So 5 pints equals 2.5 quarts. I personally find that easier. Okay, but you are certainly welcome to use the unit ratios or the proportions, whatever you prefer. Okay, now let's look at a real world example. We're going to convert a rate here on helicopters. A helicopter flies at a rate of 158 miles per hour. How many miles per second is this? Okay, this is going to be a little bit tricky. So we need to write down a few things that we know. Okay, we know that 1 hour equals 3,600 seconds. Okay, and the way I figured that out is there are 60 minutes in an hour, 60 seconds in a minute, so 60 times 60 is 3,600. Okay, so we know that our unit ratio is 1 hour is 3,600 seconds. Okay, so now what we would do is we would multiply 158 miles, okay, over 1 hour, because he flies that many miles in an hour. How much is that going to equal if we times it by 1 hour over 3,600 seconds? Divide out your common units, which are the hours, cross those out, okay, and then you will be left with 158 divided by 3,600, because you end up multiplying and you get 158 miles over 3,600 seconds. If you divide 158 by 3,600, you will get 0.004, oh sorry, too many zeros, 0.04 miles per second. That's your final answer. So the helicopter flies approximately 0.04 of a mile per second. Okay, go ahead and go to your next page. Now, let's try to change some metric units. Okay, let's see what happens when we do that. Okay, you've probably done some of this in science, I think, or I hope. Okay, so let's just take a look here. The metric system is a decimal system of measures. The prefixes commonly used in this system are kilo, centi, and milli. Kilos are thousands, centi is hundredths, milli is thousandths. Okay? In the metric system, the base unit of length is the meter. Using the prefixes, the names of other units of length are formed. Notice that the prefixes tell you how the units relate to the meter. Okay, so for example, 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters. 1 meter equals 1,000th of a kilometer. 1 meter is 1 meter. That's our standard relationship. A centimeter is 0.01 meter, and 1 meter is 100 centimeters. 1 millimeter is 0.001 meters, and 1 meter is 1,000 millimeters. Okay, these are all things that hopefully you learned in science. The liter is the base unit of capacity, the amount of dry or liquid material an object can hold. The gram measures mass, the amount of matter in an object. The prefixes can also be applied to these units. Whereas the meter and liter are the base units of length and capacity, the base unit of mass is the kilogram. Okay, go ahead and go to your next page. We're going to do some conversions here, okay? To change a metric measure of length, mass, or capacity from one unit to another, you can use the relationship between the two units and the multiplication by a power of 10. So for example, let's convert 4.5 liters to milliliters. You need to convert liters to milliliters. Use the relationship that 1 liter equals 1,000 milliliters. Okay, so if we write that down, 1 liter equals 1,000 milliliters. That is our relationship. Multiply each side by 4.5 since you have 4.5 liters. So 4.5 times 1 liter equals 1,000 times 4.5. Okay, you would end up with 4.5 liters equals 4,500 milliliters. Okay, to multiply 4.5 by 1,000, you just move the decimal place 3 places to the right because we're getting bigger. Okay, how about converting 500 millimeters to meters? Okay, so in this case, we know that our conversion is 1 millimeter equals 1,000th of a meter. So 1 millimeter equals 0.001 meter. We want to know how 500 millimeters, how many meters there are. So do 500 times 1 millimeter equals 500 times 0.001 meter. And you will end up with 500 millimeters equals 0.5 meters because you just simply move your decimal 3 places to the left, okay? Sorry about that. Let's go ahead and do this real-world example with the bear, okay? The California grizzly bear was designated the official state animal in 1953. Use the information at the left to find the maximum weight of a grizzly bear in grams. Okay, the information that we have over here is the maximum weight of a grizzly bear is 521.64 kilograms. Okay, so let's write this down. We know that our relationship is 1 kilogram equals 1,000 grams. Okay, so we would take 521.64 times 1 kilogram equals 1,000 times 521.64. Okay, so that means that 521.64 kilograms equals 521,640 grams because we just multiplied right there. Okay, pretty easy. So the maximum weight of a grizzly bear is 521,640 grams. Okay, go ahead and go to your last. Okay, this is another chart that is going to be very handy for you that is for metric conversions. or to go between customary and metric, again, you probably want to screenshot this and use it. Okay, so this is kind of the last thing that we sometimes have to do, and it can be very tricky, I'm not going to lie. Okay, so let's go ahead and try these last couple of problems. Convert 17.22 inches to centimeters. Round to the nearest hundredth if necessary. Now, I personally like to use proportions to do this, but you can also use the unit ratios. I will show you both ways. Okay, convert 17.22 inches to centimeters. Round to the nearest hundredth if necessary. So we want to use the conversion that we can see up here. Okay, how many inches you can see here? This is our conversion. 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. So we will write that down. 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. So we would do 17.22 inches. Okay, equals 2.54 times 17.22, and you will end up with 17.22 inches equals 43.7388. It says to round to the nearest hundredth, so you would write 17.22 inches equals 43.74 centimeters. Okay, let me show you the other way that I would do that just to make it easier, because sometimes I think it's hard. You don't know whether you should be multiplying or dividing. So I set up a proportion. So I would set up my proportion 1 inch to 2.54 centimeters. And then I would set up my equivalent ratio over here. What I'm given in the problem is inches, so I put that on top because I have inches on top. And then this is my question mark. And then I would simply do my cross products here. And so that would be 1 question mark equals the 2.54 times 17.22, which is the 43.7388. That's how you end up knowing that this is 43.74, because you set up the equivalent ratios where you put inches to inches, centimeters to centimeters. It makes it very easy to know if you should multiply or divide. So let's do the next one that way. Convert 828.5 milliliters to cups. So we need to look at our relationship up here. 1 cup is this many milliliters. So let's set up our proportion. 1 cup equals 236.59 milliliters, and then set up our problem. We're given milliliters, so that will go on the bottom. 828.5 milliliters, and we don't know how many cups that is. So we would do our cross products here. We end up with 828.5 milliliters equals 236.59 question mark, right? That's our variable in this case. So in that case, you know, to get the variable by itself, you need to divide. So you would do 828.5 divided by 236.59, and you will end up with 3.5 cups. And that would be your final answer. So again, you have a couple of different options in solving these problems. Personally, I think that what you already know about proportions and solving little simple equations would make proportions your best choice for these. Okay? But if you have any questions, please make sure to ask your teachers. And good luck on these conversions. Bye for now.